Age of Realism. All forms of expression of art, literature, government, science, religion, and philosophy had the capability to showcase real life, but also many unfair treatments were being enforced on the people during this time. Art and literature were powerful in paintings and even the pictures, and for all in society to see unjust treatment.
During the Age of Realism, literature, painting, and photography, and so on, were considered art forms. An interesting thought is that all art is critical of its society. In the 19th century, it became much more explicit as social and political movements became more urgent. And now we're going to show you all a video between two intellectuals having a discussion on the Age of Realism.
And here it is.
All right, the Age of Realism. There were plenty of works and ideas that helped shape the period. Some of those literary and philosophical works were Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground, Darwin's The Origin of Species, Marx and Engels' The Manifesto of the Communist Party.
Also, there's Nietzsche, and there's a story by him called The Gay Signs, which is German. And there's also Chekhov, which the title by Chekhov is The Lady with the Dog in the Cherry Orchard, which is Russian. And this all incorporates with artists such as Gustav Courbet.
Most representative of that time was the literature and widely influential art of 19th century Europe. It found new forms and methods.
Express the social and intellectual situations of a time most fully and memorably. It was this literature
that served as a model for many non-Western writers seeking to modernize their own literary tradition. Philosophically, you transitioned over Charles Darwin's evolutionary theories. Scientific viewpoint spread widely and permeated almost all fields
of human thought and endeavor. Liberty, science, progress, and evolution are the concepts that define the mental atmosphere of the 19th century in Europe.
Philosophically, with Darwin, one of the quotes from his book, The Origin of Species, it says, "As many more individuals of each species are born than can possibly survive, and as consequently there is a frequently recurring struggle for existence. It follows that any being, if it vary however slightly, in any manner profitable to itself, under the complex and sometimes
verifying conditions of life, will have a better chance of surviving and thus be naturally selected. From the strong principles of inheritance and selected variety will tend to propagate its new and modified form."
Sociology at the time. Touching on some of the sociology during this time, there was an incredible man named Karl Marx. He was a German philosopher, economist, sociologist, historian, journalist, and revolutionary socialist.
Marx's work, Economics, laid the basis for the current understanding of labor in the realism period. Oh my God! And its relation to the capital and how it influenced much of the subsequent economic thoughts.
One of Marx's most famous quotes out of the Manifesto of the Communist Party,
which he was a huge sociologist, by the way.
Yes. Is that the modern bourgeois society, with its relations of production, of exchange and property, as a society that has conjured up such gigantic means of production and of exchange, is like the sorcerer, all the powers of the netherworld whom he has called up by his spells. Art of the time. During the 19th century of realism, the art was a representation of truth and how people live their day-by-day lives. For example, Gustav Courbet was a famous artist during the 19th century realism.
Realism, the time period. He wasn't interested in perfection because...
That's my turn. That was not wasn't realistic. The popularity of such realistic works grew with the introduction of photography, a new visual source, as we just seen on screen, that created a desire for people to produce representations which looked objectively real. Now I'd also like to share with you a couple of the pieces of art of the time. This first piece shows the dancing class, which was painted by Edgar Degas. I think this one's interesting because of the way, as far as the realistic movement goes, of the Age of Realism. how real everything looks. It looks like a class that is full of dancers and how they are using the mirror, and watching themselves. And then the second piece is The Old Musician, which is by Edouard Manet. I think this one's interesting because you've got the old musician sitting there with the crowd around, typically a lot like you would see today, which I think is quite interesting. It's pretty much the same concept, but in a different time. And then this last